When a great and decisive work is to be done, God chooses men and women to do this work, and it will see the loss if the talents of both are not combined. It was Mary that first preached a risen Jesus, and if there were 20 women where now there is one, we should see many more converted to the truth. Indeed, a woman does not know her power for God. She has a higher purpose, a grand destiny. Who can represent the truth and the example of Christ better than Christian women, who are practicing the truth in their earnest efforts to bring souls to the light, who are so well adapted to be teachers and whose hearts are imbued with the love of Christ? Women are instruments of righteousness, rendering holy service to God.
When Ellen White arrived in Australia, women's rights activists were achieving great victories. But at the beginning of her ministry, women could not vote. Their career choices were limited, and they had no power to buy, sell, or travel alone, and they certainly did not preach.
But in 1859, eyewitness accounts tell us that through a God-given miracle, Ellen White went from a relatively unknown teenage girl to a sensation overnight.
As the meeting opened, Ellen began to pray, and soon afterwards was taken off in a vision, talking with a shrill voice that was distinctly understood by all present. 3 of the 4 elders were exasperated, declaring her to be of the devil. Exhausting all their influence and bodily strength, they attempted to destroy the effect of the vision, singing and shouting in order that Ellen might not be heard. Finally, the owner of the house claimed that satanic visions could be arrested by laying of a Bible on the person in vision. Immediately, Ellen rose to her feet and walked into the middle of the room. She opened the Bible and lifted it as high as she could reach, and with her eyes steadily looking upwards, declared solemnly the inspired testimony of God with an accuracy that could only come from Christ himself.
Those who had rebuked Ellen were greatly troubled by the miracle. Indeed, several leading Adventists, including Joseph Bates, struggled to accept her visions. Here was a teenage girl, weak and sickly, who certainly did not seem to contain great power. But after rigorous questioning of Ellen and her family, even Bates was forced to admit that she was an inspired prophetess.
To many early Adventists, Ellen White's passion and authority were unsettling. The Minneapolis Journal in 1888 describes her as a homely, plain woman, but later admitted she preached in the pulpit with all the fire and severity of a man.
Today, that fiery passion has led Ellen White to be named amongst the 100 most significant Americans by the Smithsonian, who recognise her leading role in promoting education, religion, and health in 19th century America. This is a significant achievement. Focus on her writings and prophetic inspiration, but new research is emerging, exploring her life as a woman.
On the 30th of August, 1846, a justice of the peace married Ellen and James White in Portland, Maine. Their marriage was practical but happy, and the two presented an equal partnership before the crowds. While James offered doctrinal discourse, Ellen spoke to the heart, and their work increased the church's population greatly. But while their marriage was often happy, it had its troubles. Both Ellen and James had fiery personalities, and with both holding important, time-consuming positions within the church, differences of opinion could lead to terrible arguments. And whilst Ellen boldly worked among men, her status as a prophet and leader were not always easy for James to accept. Their lack of time and privacy and differences of opinion about raising of their children only exacerbated their tempers.
And yet, Ellen never envisioned her life without James in it. But by the time of her arrival in Australia in 1891, James had succumbed to poor health after a succession of strokes. 2 of her children were dead, and she was forced to journey on without them. It is this perseverance where we see the true strength of Ellen's character.
Today, many young women are recognising the value of her story to their own experience.
Today, women across the world follow in Ellen's footsteps, and everywhere they worship and serve is blessed by God.
When a great and decisive work is to be done, God chooses men and women to do this work, and it will see the loss if the talents of both are not combined. It was Mary that first preached a risen Jesus. And if there were 20 women, where now there is one, we should see many more converted to the truth. The work will need men and women of wisdom and prayer, who will carry the work forward from state to stage, intelligently toiling, praying, and working as laborers of God's appointment. Indeed, a woman does not know her power for God. She has a higher purpose, a grand destiny.